All right, so we are here with the one and only Mr. Tom Shallon. He's one of the top business trainers in the country and really specializes in leadership development. He's grown massive sales armies, just a real brain behind systems and growth and duplication. And so for those of you guys who are growing a business, maybe you're a solopreneur and want to be able to grow into an entrepreneur and really run a business, grow teams, this is the man to be learning from. So Tom, glad to be here with you today. I learned so much from you over the years, especially when it comes to the growth of our organization, and it's awesome to be able to pick your brain.
Well, it's good to be here with you, brother.
Absolutely.
I'm honored to learn from you.
Cool. Well, let's.
So when you said you want to interview me, I'm like, oh, sure. So I can pick your brain.
Right on, right on. So why don't we dive in? You know, I'm really big on strategy. I think that I think there's a lot of motivational people out there where, you know, people can learn from. But I think that real tangible strategies is what really allows people to get the knowledge to actually take action and get a result. So let's jump right in and talk a little bit about, you know, your story, how you got into to where you are a little bit, just a quick background, and then share some strategies on some things that you've learned when it comes to building teams.
Yep. I've never said this story ever.
Okay.
But I got involved in building teams and building leadership organizations from the mob. Literally.
Wow.
The mob. Riverside, California, I owned the first ever recycling company. Called it Riverside Student Recycling Program. Basically, a bunch of my roommates drank beer. I collected them, took them to the recycling yard, and found out you could make money. So I started building the whole city.
Wow.
Built to a huge company when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. And then all of the waste management, Trico, and all the, I didn't know it at the time, but a lot of the Italian business owners said, hey, we want our piece of the pie of this recycling company from this young kid.
Wow.
And that's when I said, hey, you know what, I was young, I let it go, and I started getting into sales training, building teams, building organizations.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. So where does your passion come from to build teams, and how did that, you know, how have you, what are some key strategies that you've learned to do it?
My whole life, I was labeled the dumb guy. I was literally called stupid in high school, graduated with a 1.2 GPA. So I thought...
that's pretty bad.
Pretty bad, yeah. I thought I was literally, my teachers told me I was not smart. Everybody said that the only thing that I can do is either go to jail, maybe get a labor type job, because I just wasn't smart enough to do anything from a business perspective. So when I moved from Ohio to California out of just wanting to play football and wanting to come out to the California lifestyle, no one was calling me stupid anymore. I naively started a recycling company and started a landscaping business. And I naively just kept starting businesses. And I naively, 5 years later, was making more money than pretty much everybody from my high school that I went to school with. So I jumped into it. So how I got into leadership is my life was so profoundly transformed by learning growth, by learning leadership, ultimately becoming a Christian, that my life was transformed because of what leadership can do for a man and for a woman. So for me, I got addicted to helping my life transform, and then I wanted to in turn help other people do the same thing.
Yeah, wow, that's so awesome. So when somebody comes in, and let's say you get somebody that is able to be mentored by you, they come in from scratch. How do you take somebody from point A into becoming like an expert in sales, or to become a sharp leader, or to become amazing? What are some key steps that have to take place?
So the biggest thing that I do is I create the expectation. I let them know, like when you're going to plant a plant, I don't know if you can see the plant in the background. When you're going to grow something, you want to make sure that that plant has the best chance to succeed. The way you do that is to put it into the best soil. So the best way to create a leadership culture is do your absolute best with experience and with leadership by example to create that soil as strong as you can. And the first thing you want to do is you want to look at that person in the eye, and you want to create that right expectation of what you expect in that person, and create that lid, that leadership lid of what we do and what you want to get to, and become part of a championship organization. You know, in business, you're either going to be the Cleveland Browns. No offense, I'm from Cleveland. You're either going to be the Cleveland Browns, or you're going to be the New England Patriots, or this year, the Eagles, right?
That's right.
They're a leadership culture that creates leaders, that creates the right culture, that creates the right success. And it's very rare. And if you create that right expectation in that leadership culture, people will rise up to become that person.
Yeah,
and if they're not the right fit.
Definitely. And I've seen a lot of organizations, you see a lot of leadership where it's good messages, you know, they give a lot of great motivation, a lot of generic type of leadership, but what is it? What do leaders need to do in order to help their people get results? Like, for example, in my rookie phases of building teams, I'd get up there and I'd charge. And, all right, guys, this is where we're going. This is what we're going to do. And then a whole week would go by and nothing would happen. And then I'd get in front of the room. All right, guys, this is where we're going. This is the vision. How do you prevent that from happening? And how do you get your team to actually take results or take action?
Yeah, okay, good. My favorite thing is to have a simple plan. Give everybody, this is exactly what you want to do. And it's usually just 3 things. In-N-Out Burger is one of the fastest growing franchises in the world. I think even faster than McDonald's right now. Because when you go there, here's what you need to do. Order 1, 2, or 3. Which are you? So in our teams, I stopped being overcomplicated, over-analytical, over-systematizing everything, over-planning everything. And I'm like, look, this is how you sell. You grab this words, you say this, and you do this. 1, 2, 3. So we create right expectation and a simple plan. And I lead that by example and show them I'm doing exactly what I expect you to do. And there's only one thing I expect out of you if you were to work with me. One thing. I want to know what your best is. And you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be as good as me. You don't have to be as good as anybody else. But you were designed to be amazing. You were born to be for a purpose, and you were born to be incredibly proficient at your day. And if you're supposed to be here, let's make it work. And there's only one thing I'm going to expect out of that. It's your best. So let's identify how many hours you're going to work specifically in your day, and let's quantify how many connections you need to make to get those transactions, those sales that you need to make happen in real estate or whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
All that matters is business. I mean, not everything that matters, but the main thing that moves the ball forward in our business is sales.
Right. Got it. Okay. So with that, there's always the underperformers, the guys that don't really take the action. Do you continue to pour into them, or do you just focus on bringing new sharp talent into the team and just focus on finding talent?
It depends. Are they paid or are they independent contractors?
Let's say independent contractors.
If they're independent contractors, then I give them a lot of grace as an incubation, because if someone didn't give me that grace, I was a 5-year incubation project.
Wow.
Tom Hopkins seminars, Hector Lamarck, leadership training seminars, every single Tuesday, every single Thursday, every single Saturday. So I was an incubation process. And thank goodness I was an independent contractor. They probably would have fired me because I wasn't ready to do it. So if it's an independent, lots of grace. Now, I'm not going to work with you one-on-one. Everything I've learned that almost anything that I can do one-on-one can be done with the right intention, system, in a group. So I've just learned for the masses of my team as they're developing, I'm going to bring them up in a group type training system.
Got it. That's
Events,
awesome.
online.
So creating culture, giving them the right tools, the resources, everything to develop them.
Yep.
But maybe you're not spending your one-on-one time with them, but the system or the culture is developing in them.
The only ones I spend one-on-one time with are the squeaky wheels that are working, meaning the ones that are making it happen. They're making the sales. I mean, you just know. I mean, you know after a very short period of time.
So for the high performers that are doing well, how do you lead them? Because they're a little bit of a different breed, right? If you compliment them too much, their ego kind of gets in the way. They start walking a little too tall too quickly, and then they start managing everybody because they think that they've already made it. How do you keep those what they call the eagles? How do you keep the eagles flying higher when they're doing well?
That's the question of the day, Adam. I'm going to tell you right now. That is probably one of my number one thing. If I was to focus on one thing for the rest of my life, it's that right there. The one thing I've learned not to do is to hold back.
Because a lot of legends have been through your trainings. Like I don't want to drop names just to protect that, but a lot of amazing world-class people have been through your training programs. So how do you take eagles higher?
Well, like this, meaning all you can do is when you're an eagle and you have an eagle, you got to hold your hand like this, and you can't hold back the praise. And one of my mentors used to say, the worst thing about success is a little bit. And that was me. And when my mentors held back with me because they were afraid of me either competing with them or they saw my ego getting out of check, it's hard. That's part of the culture too. That's part of that environment. You got to have a culture where ego is exposed very quickly. And it's not just you, because I'm not extremely strong at confronting someone's ego, but I want to develop more of a culture where it's exposed very quickly.
Right. Right. Yeah, because I know it's a very fragile situation. I think it's a case by case person as well. When you get an eagle, one of the things that I've noticed too is that it's like you have to be able to say, hey, look, you're a rock star, you're a stud, but right now you're like a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Like you're really a small fish in a big pond, and putting things in perspective so that there's still room for them to grow. Because I think sometimes when you're in culture, I think sometimes they could feel like they're a big fish.
Yeah.
But in the big scope of things, they're really
Yeah,
not yet.
but they don't know that they don't know. When they have,
They don't know
when they
that
do
they
have
don't
this
know.
ego, they don't know that they don't know they don't know until usually they're out of your organization. They look back
Yeah,
and go,
they
man,
go,
I wish I would have.
man, and it's too late.
But
It's
if
too
one
late.
thing I've learned though, I've had some incredibly strong egos that we've clashed heads with, and maybe my ego was getting out of check in the early years, and they left. And I've learned to love them on the way out. Hey, high five, looking forward to
Right.
let me know if
Right.
I can help you in anything.
Exactly.
And I've seen them come back. They almost always come back around full circle.
Really?
If you have the right environment, like your best people, there's a chance that they will leave you sooner or later.
Wow.
And if you love them while they're there, you praise them while they're there, correction when needed, but they leave you for whatever reason, maybe you butted heads or whatever their situation is, watch them come back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very powerful to give permission to allow room for that, because I think a lot of leaders burn bridges when somebody that they've worked to develop and train end up leaving.
Talking bad on the way out. I
Yeah.
used to do that.
Wow, that's very
Yeah,
high.
earlier.
That's higher level. It's a level of maturity too. I think that we have to be able to get to as leaders as well. So talking about more of this leadership development, what do you think is necessary in order to keep that eagle excited, like to keep, because there's a lot of high performers that come into the organization, right? They need to be challenged. How do you keep them on fire, and then also not intimidate the other guys who are maybe not a high performer yet?
You know what? You definitely have to praise and recognition, number one. A leadership scoreboard. And I know some people, what you said, you don't want to worry about the people that aren't doing much. People love to keep score. Sports keep a score for a reason. And the people who have any kind of competition are going to want to find a way to get on that leadership board. I don't know where I'd be right now if there wasn't some kind of scoreboard. And I was always at the bottom of that scoreboard.
Wow.
And I just kept saying, and I felt, bad for years. Sooner or later, I kept working my way up that scoreboard. So praise and recognition, keep continuous leadership culture, scoreboard, and of course, love and praise the people as they're coming up as well.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. So what's something that you think that really upsets you, or that you feel is like a thorn in your side when you see it, or you see as a common mistake that a lot of people are making, that you feel like it needs, like people are doing wrong, like they need to fix?
It's simple. I get every single day, I do one-on-one coaching with certain people for the last 10 years straight. And it's becoming almost like very frustrating, very, very mad when I see people that communicate with me and I'm like, man, this person sounds sharp, rock star, what a winner. And then I hear what their sales volume is or their team volume is. And then I start hearing the justifications, the excuses of why they're where they're at. And I just want to reach through the phone and just rip that fear out. I want to reach through that phone and rip out that word, that the pretty word is the comfort zone. The real word is laziness. I see this chronicness of 10, 20, 30 years of people getting in a comfort zone, people getting lazier, people getting gripped with more fear and really not understanding what it's like to be fully going for it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so one of the things that I've struggled in my business is I was using online marketing to get clients. It worked really well, but then I was only able to handle so many clients, and I ended up getting stuck with having to do all the fulfillment in the back end. So I took some time off to build systems, and in that process, I kind of got away from social media because I didn't have time to manage it as much anymore. And then, it's pulling away from the marketing side because I'm in the back end of my business, right? So now all those systems are built and now moving to the front end. And it's just that time I was gone, social media has changed a lot. Like, what do you really feel right now as like a CEO? How do you manage systems in the back end and building everything, and then also continue to put yourself online and be relevant on so many different platforms now? Like, it used to just be like Facebook, and now it's like you have to be on Instagram, you have to be on Facebook. Snapchat is where, of course, things are happening now too. How do you manage it all and run a business?
You don't at first, right? So here's what we did. We said we're going to go all in simplifying our product offering, simplifying everything as much as we can, and focus really intently at the most compounded 10 out of 10 thing we can do on a daily basis. So for us, that was webinars. So we said we're going to be extremely good at mapping out webinars and paying on social media for that advertisement, because we just made that decision that we knew if we had enough money coming in, we can get extremely strong, financially healthy, and then we can outsource the Instagram person to do the organic. We can hire the person for the SEO. So we have the war chest financially to hire the best. And one of the things, I think it was it you that told me this? I think it was you. I got this from you.
What was it?
I think is that you want to hire superheroes.
Yeah.
Or you want to hire superheroes. You don't want to. It's good to raise some people up from scratch, but hire the best Facebook person to do Facebook ads. Hire the best person for videography and Instagram and all the different things you want to do. So our whole thing is get real narrow with Facebook ads. And now that we've built up a pretty good business and got our systems in place a little bit more, and our staff and our team in place, now we're starting to have the funding to do the organic. Because for you to be the CEO, the one overcharging sales, overcharging operations, and running an organic brand, it's like running 4 companies.
Yes, you're right. Everything has its own processes. And
Its own processes, and being an entrepreneur, that means, we are, right, over optimistic.
Yeah, you're
we
right.
think we can do everything.
Yes.
But I've learned, especially as we get, for me, a little bit of gray hair, a little bit older, your adrenals can only push out so much energy. Your body can only push out. So you want to push, hustle, work, focus, but you also want to not mess around with about
Right.
90% of what you need to do.
Yeah, that's so good. It's so good. So, you've done, I think, around just through webinar marketing alone, over $1 million in sales just this last year doing that. How does that look like? How do you do that? So for people who want to scale their marketing, talk about the webinar game a little bit, because it's changed a lot.
Yeah, it's changed, but it's working. I mean, the quick, fast answer is, if you have your niche, if you have your product, get really good at learning how to put together that webinar. Russell Brunson is someone you help people with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So help structure that webinar the right way, because if you don't, like, I used to just wing those webinars, thinking that I'm charismatic, thinking that I'm a good salesman, and until I got a structure of exactly how to structure that, like from someone like you, that says, how do you communicate? Because I used to just educate, and then I learned you don't want. It's crazy. The more sometimes you educate on a webinar, the less sales that you get.
That's interesting. The more value that you get.
It's different than social media. It's different than organic social media. You have to be very strategic at, being very specific of what you're doing in that webinar.
That's very good. That's very good. So what does it really take to win online right now as far as social media? Because there's so many moving parts now. Like you could just used to post on Facebook. Now it's like we have Instagram stories. You have, your Snapchat, you have, it's like, well, how do you win? Like, how do you win? Like,
I'll just tell you, this is one area that I dropped the ball in up until recently. And I just made that commitment now that I'm going to do whatever it takes. Enough financial helps. You're either going to use a little bit of money or a lot of time. So I value my time more, so I wanted to build up a little bit of a war chest financially. But if I was doing it from a time perspective, I'd probably take more of a Gary Vaynerchuk type of approach.
Like more bold?
Where I would be completely all in bold. Because right now you can't just be consistent. You can't just be a little bit bold. You have to be extremely bold, extremely consistent, and be unique and be different. You've got to just go for it and go really narrow. One of the biggest mistakes I've made is try to be like, well, I love Faith Brand, and I'm really into family, and I want to do a family blog, and I'm really into health. I love health and fitness, but you know what? I just love team building and leadership.
Right.
And the moment I said, okay, even though my company name is Priority, so I'm like, I gotta be everything.
Right.
And as soon as I got really narrow, I want to be the best in the world at helping you build teams. It's my one thing. I've spent 20,000 plus hours over the last 20 years getting really good at the psychology, the DNA of how to create that culture, how to create the systems to scale teams.
That's good.
So as soon as I started focusing more on that, my social media brand's starting to grow now instead of being so scattered. So watch in the next 5 years where that looks like, but that's what we're doing right now.
That's so good. Yeah, because you're really you're a genius mind. Like, I love strategizing with you because your brain is just amazing how it connects dots to get an ROI and how to grow things. You have a result-driven brain. I don't know if you know that or not.
Well, thank you.
It's very amazing. So that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about the tool. So I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine who's in the military, and he's saying that if you go out to war and you run out of bullets, you're dead. And in business, sometimes we go to we wake up, we're in the war, we're in the game, and we run out of bullets. What are those bullets, do you feel, in business that people, if we run out of, we're dead?
Well, number one bullet by far is energy. Physical energy. Our bodies are at war, literally right now. If you're confused, if you're distracted, if you're wishy-washy, if you're thinking, should I do this? Should I do Instagram? Should I do Snapchat? You're instantly sucking your physical gift, your energy drive.
And is that because of decision fatigue?
If you're in a decision fatigue, it is creating cortisol. It's stressing you out. Your bank account's usually going lower, and it's the number one cause of energy. Everybody's going to essential oils, or I need this nutritional supplement, and all that's good when you have a challenge, or supplemental too. It's all good, but the chronic cause of that, the biggest weapon that we need is the energy to win that battle.
So what is the thought that is the power thought to penetrate decision fatigue and get into solution-oriented thinking?
Prosper where you're planted. That's what the Bible says. What's in front of you right now? Pick, if you got 10 things, pick one or two right now and run with it. Right now, you have a gun to your head. It's like your life depends on it. It may not be the prettiest thing you got to do, but it's what can produce the 10x return right now. The thing that I'm doing right now isn't necessarily the 10x. I probably would have went for fitness. I probably would have went for a travel vlog around the world with my family. But the thing that helped me get to a 7-figure income finally was getting really narrow on something that I'm like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I want to do something different. No, I'm great at it. Let's ROI it. Let's bless people, and let's become the best we can and fall in love with that one simple thing that we've been doing over and over.
That's great. I love that. Now, I think what's made you extraordinary as an individual is your ability to incorporate faith into what you do. Now, it's a very touchy area because a lot of people say don't mix business and faith. How have you noticed doing the two? How has that impacted you as a person and your life and also the people around you?
First off, when you are a person of faith, when you do believe in your higher power, Jesus Christ, there's no such thing as separation. It's just, is he a part of your life or isn't he? And for me, he's part of my life. It's my main focus. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else things, will come to you. And again, I don't know the exact scripture, but the bottom line is put God first. And so there's no difference. Now, it doesn't mean I'm preaching at people, my clients. It doesn't mean I'm going to lead with, hey, it means that I'm just going to love them at their best ability. I'm going to love my clients, and I'm going to use those principles to build my team. I don't necessarily have to preach. I don't necessarily have to profess my faith. I just have to do my best to walk it out.
Yeah, that's so good. So tell me about one embarrassing moment that you had in your business.
Oh, my. Years ago, my wife, I always prank my wife.
Okay.
So one day, my wife, back in the day, remember we had those phones? Or are you too young? Remember the phones? Like, pick up the phone, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I'm a late 80s baby.
Okay. So I was on the phone upstairs making an actual prospecting call, sales call, and my wife picks up the phone, the other line, and she put on the internet farting noises. So I'm sitting there and all I hear is
no.
And my prospect goes,
no way.
We both went like this, and we pause. And this is all on the internet, by the way.
Yeah.
This is all on YouTube, by the way.
No way.
Tom farting video. Tom Chalmers. And it's all live. It's all recorded. And all of a sudden, it happens again. Like 3 or 4 or 5 times. And the client's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, well, my dogs aren't around. It was so funny. And then all of a sudden, my wife comes up. I got you.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I actually got the sale, but it was very embarrassing.
That's
very
awesome.
funny.
That's an awesome story.
How about you?
So I'm a big prankster myself. So I'll share a quick. I love pranking. Like people know not to prank me because I come back hard. So I'll tell you a quick story. One of the guys on my team, Carlos, he's in charge of our sales, and he kept pranking me. Like he'd hide behind corners and scare me. I'd be using the bathroom. He'd like come and dump water on me, like crazy stuff. And I'm like, dude, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do it, right? So I was like, I'm gonna get you. So about a month goes by and he keeps doing it. And he's like, dude, I was like, you crossed it. It's it. So what I did is I was talking to my dad and I said, we got to get Carlos. So my dad has a polygraph business, right? So he does.
No,
yeah, he does,
I need to talk to him.
Yeah, he does lie detection, right? So I told Carlos, I said, somebody is stealing money from our business account. And he He said, no way.
Did you video this?
Yes, it's all on video. It's on video. It's going up on YouTube. I haven't released it yet. And he said, you're kidding me. And I said, no, I'm not kidding you. I said, and I know it's from our team because they cashed checks from my bag. And they're in this, they got cashed in the South Bay area, which is where he lives. Right?
Oh.
And so I'm like, look, I don't want to single anybody out on the team because I don't want to ruin our culture. So I need you to take a polygraph test. I know you weren't the one who did it, but we're going to all come in. I was like, I have your schedule. I have your schedule Saturday at 10. So he comes in. He's like, no problem, bro. I'll be there to support, whatever. And so my dad starts interrogating him. He's like, so, could you use an extra 22 grand? You know, he's an interrogator. My dad is expert at that. You know, and he starts asking questions. So where do you live? He's like, the South Bay. He's like, interesting. He's like, the checks were cashed in the South Bay. He's like, are you around Adam when he leaves his stuff around? He's like, all the time. I work with Adam. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, you know, do you realize that you're a possible suspect in this?
Oh!
You're a possible suspect. So that was, right? So then he straps him up to the lie detector,
No!
the whole setup, like the wires, everything. And we're watching on live stream in the other room. So we had a live stream camera set up. So we're laughing in the other room, and he's freaking out. And to the point where my dad was saying on the screen, his heart rate was going off the charts. You know, he's like super nervous. And after he goes through some interview questions on the test, like, did you take the money? You know, my dad goes, I have some really bad news here. You're the only person on the whole team that failed the test. Oh. He's like, you failed the test with flying colors. He's like, so are you the kind of guy that takes your lie to the grave? He's like, are you the kind of guy to take your lie to the grave? Now I have to go tell Adam this. And he's freaking out at this moment. So he comes and gets me, and I sit down, and he's like, Adam, I have bad news here. Carlos failed the test. I'm like, Carlos, how could you do this to me? I was like, these tests are 99.9% accurate. I was like, how could you, after everything we've been through? And Carlos was like, no, I didn't do it. So we get him going, and at the end, my dad goes, he's like, Carlos, I have one more question for you. Have you ever been pranked before? And Carlos starts crying because he's so relieved. This whole process is
it
was like an hour-long process.
No!
Yeah.
I gotta see this.
Yeah,
I love pranks.
It's crazy.
I'm never pranking you, but I love pranks.
So it's funny because after that, so we thought it was done there, right? Then this guy comes in the office and he's like, hey, somebody's breaking windows outside. The cops are looking for the guy. So Carlos goes, oh my gosh, this must be my car. He's like, you know, because he's just very paranoid of all this. So he goes outside and his windows shattered. The glass all over the windowsill, all over the floor. Well, he's freaking out like, gosh, of all days, how could this happen? Da, da, da. So I take the keys and I put them in the ignition. I go, Carlos, zzz, and I roll up the window, and it was all fake glass I put there. And so he got double pranked. He got double pranked that day.
Double.
And he called a truce. He says, Adam, I'm not pranking you again until 2019. I said, okay.
2019?
Yeah. He took a year off.
So, Hey, if you want to join Adam's team, this is what you got to deal with.
Hey, you know what? You prank me, you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to get... I bring resources. You do. So that's funny. It. So why don't you give them your social handles so they can connect with you?
Priority Networker.
Okay.
Priority Networker, Instagram. And of course, my name is Tom Challen. So you can look up Tom Challen or Priority Networker.
Awesome. Okay. Sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us.
You bet, man.
It's been a lot of fun.
Never pranking you again.
Hey, let's go get a game of ping pong.
All right.